Good day, everyone. In our previous discussion, we explored various applications that you can use for your teaching. In this lesson, we will further know and understand digital learning materials and get to know and explore conventional teaching and learning materials. Our target outcomes for this lesson are as follows. Name digital learning materials that can help in enhancing the teaching learning process. Articulate digital safety rules that ensure learners' online safety. Identify conventional learning materials for classroom use. Explain the purpose of teaching learning materials in the classroom. Design and create digital and conventional learning materials to enhance teaching and learning, and showcase appropriate use of digital and conventional learning resources through a teaching demonstration. As we start today's discussion, I'd like to invite you to take a few minutes to think about this question. Why are instructional materials important in the teaching learning process? You've probably thought about various reasons on the importance of instructional materials in the teaching and learning process. Right now, I'd like to invite you to compare the answers you thought of to the reasons presented on screen. Using instructional materials in our teaching have several advantages. First, they significantly increase student achievement. If you recall our discussion on Dale's cone of experiences, we know that various instructional materials help learners retain the information taught. This will help learners better achieve target learning competencies. Second, instructional materials allow the students to explore knowledge independently and aid in providing repetition. Manipulating realias, puzzles, and digital applications and other instructional materials allow for discovery learning. Still, some other instructional materials like flashcards and workbooks help reinforce student knowledge through repetition so that what has been learned will be stored in the student's long-term memory. Furthermore, it improves the students' knowledge, abilities, and skills to monitor their assimilation of information and contribute to their overall development and upbringing. Instructional materials also clarify important concepts to arouse and sustain students' interests. Although it is said, teacher is best IMs, as students yourselves, I'm sure that you find the lesson presentation more interesting when there are other things that you can see aside from the teacher who is talking. In the same manner, the interest of the students in the elementary level are piqued when they see their teacher showing something to them. Videos, animated slideshows, puppets, and diagrams engage students' attention and interest. Aside from this, instructional materials also gives all students in the class the opportunity to share experiences necessary for new learning, such as when they are using different kinds of tools and equipment to explore something new. A simple sandbox in preschool, for example, where children can dig and discover new items in their group play, is already a learning experience for the students. Various instructional materials also help learning to become permanent. Now that we've understood the benefits of using instructional materials in our teaching, we need to understand that we just don't use any form of instructional materials when we teach. The following elements need to be considered when preparing instructional materials. First, presented content needs to be aligned to the curriculum and standards. Every activity and material used must lead the learners to achieve the target learning competencies for every lesson. Only through aligning the instructional material with the target competency will it be deemed useful. Instructional materials must also be valid, current, and reliable with real world examples, and it must be designed to meet the individual learners. In outcomes based education, the learners must be able to apply their knowledge to real life situations. Thus, we need to use instructional materials that students can connect to the real world and can reliably aid them in realizing that what they are learning in the classroom can help them in their day to day lives, whether currently or in the future. Instructional materials must also be designed in such a way that it can effectively enhance conceptual understanding and engage higher order thinking skills. When we write our target outcomes, the main goal is for the students to develop critical thinking and metacognition. Instructional materials should serve as scaffolds so the learners can achieve this. Hence, it should be designed or prepared to serve such purpose. Instructional materials must also be free from bias. It should be designed to be inclusive and respectful to the various cultures, religion, and races of the learners. Bearing in mind these five elements will allow us to prepare valid, reliable, and effective instructional materials. In the previous lesson, we identified and explored some digital tools and applications that can help teachers in preparing lessons and designing activities for class. I'd like to invite you now to get a sheet of paper or to open the notepad from your phone and list the digital tools that you remember. All of those applications and tools you've identified are considered digital learning resources. Applications, software programs, websites that engage students in learning activities and support students' learning goals are all considered digital learning resources. There are different types of digital learning resources. We have digital learning materials or e-learning materials, which include study materials published in digital format like e-worksheets, e-textbooks, educational videos, and e-tests. We also have open educational resources. These are freely accessible, openly licensed instructional materials such as text, media, and other digital assets that are useful for teaching, learning, assessing, and research purposes. Another one is adaptive learning. This is an educational method which uses computer algorithms as well as artificial intelligence to orchestrate the interaction with the learner and deliver customized resources and learning activities to address the unique needs of each learner. Then there are simulations and models, which are usually equipped with interactive controls and activities where learners can vary any parameters in specific models and see real changes in the outcomes. Graphics and animations are also useful digital learning resources. Videos and graphics have a high sharing potential, which enables knowledge to reach a wider audience. Then we have quizzes and games. Interactive quizzes can be an innovative way to test the learner's knowledge. Moreover, it can be modified as per situation and target audience. Online learning, personalized learning, and blended learning are also considered as types of digital learning resources. Badging and gamification is another type of digital learning resource. This is a developing approach for increasing learners' motivation and engagement by incorporating game design elements in educational environments. Then we have virtual reality. This is a simulated experience that can be similar to or completely different from the real world. Lastly, we have augmented reality. This offers a more realistic experience compared to virtual reality because augmented reality is an interactive experience of a real world environment where the objects that reside in the real world are enhanced by computer generated perceptual information, sometimes across multiple sensory modalities. The different digital resources can truly make preparation and design of instructional materials and learning activities easier and more convenient for both teachers and learners. However, with the use of digital resources comes risk. Data and personal privacy is one issue. As teachers, we must make sure that our students are safe as we use various digital tools. Here are some digital safety rules that we can practice in school and at home. Number 1. Protect personal information with strong passwords. Number 2. Keep personal information private. Number 3. Make sure that the devices you and your students are using are secured. Number 4. Be careful about connecting to public Wi-Fi. Number 5. Research before you register to any website. Number 6. Think before typing. And of course, you have to make sure that you and your students practice critical thinking. Now, even though we live in the digital age, there are times when we don't have access to technology. Connectivity problems and power interruptions are just some of the things that can hinder teachers from using digital learning resources. That is why, even in the digital age, we cannot say that conventional learning resources are completely obsolete. Conventional learning materials are the traditional teaching aids or instructional materials, which could be animate or inanimate objects, that a teacher may use in the teaching and learning situation to achieve the desired learning outcomes. Can you recall and list down some conventional learning resources that you know of? Right now, I'd like to invite you to review the materials that you've listed and find out if it belongs to any of these categories. First, we have visual conventional learning materials. These includes items like realia, charts, graphs, flashcards, puppets, masks, cutouts, diorama, 3D models, kits, board games, busy books, and the likes. Another kind of conventional learning materials are printed materials. Printed materials include books, handouts, pamphlets, brochures, worksheets, study guide, modules, manuals, newspapers, magazines, maps, posters, and photographs. As a teacher, it is important to have different kinds of conventional learning materials ready for use in the classroom to replace digital learning materials whenever they are unavailable. Conventional learning materials also greatly contribute to the supported curriculum. Bulletin boards, classroom codes, maps, your word wall, and manipulatives in the classroom may lead children to discovery and incidental learning. Both digital and conventional learning resources are therefore essential for teachers to use in the classroom. Now, in the past weeks, you've been designing learning activities using the different digital tools we've discussed. So, for this lesson, your task is to create a DIY tutorial video on how to make a conventional learning material of your choice. As we end today's discussion, let me leave you with this quote from Bill Gates. He said that technology is just a tool. In terms of getting the kids working together and motivating them, the teacher is the most important. Thank you, everyone, for joining today's class and listening to today's discussion. Have a pleasant day.